They're powder burns.
That's what we tried to grab it on.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. Okay. So I teach you guys so a couple of things on this is one, BSI team safe, right? That's what we say constantly. So you will always hear me say when I'm running your lab that the scene is as you see it, because scenes cannot be safe. They can be safe and then suddenly be not safe, literally in the blink of an eye. So you have to constantly be doing scene safety. This is a great example. This is a guy who's suspected of murdering a police officer who was arrested, then placed in a law enforcement transport vehicle, and then processed through booking, and then put into interrogation room. So he went through 3 sets of cops. Okay. It's also a good example of something you're going to learn after this one about head trauma of what raccoon eyes look like. "21 years ago." Look at the quality of that video. This is inside of a police station in an interrogation room. And again, he's gone through 3 different groups of law enforcement.
Oh.
And you're gonna watch, you can actually watch raccoon eyes develop underneath his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
How come you have no sound? There's supposed to be audio with this. Because there's some great profanity from the cops. Oh, because someone muted it.
That is nice. It's easier for us to do some stuff.
Has a lot more effect with sound.
Oh, fuck. Holy fuck.
Where'd you get it?
Nobody shook him.
The cops that arrested a suspected cop killer didn't shake the suspect. The transport team didn't shake the suspect, and when they processed him, they didn't shake him. I think we already showed you distracting injury, right? You already seen this. You already saw this one too, a gunshot wound to the chest. Right there. The same one as one of the art. The guy screaming medic is the guy that lost half his arm. You can actually hear it in the background. You've already seen that one. All right, so treatment for open soft tissue injuries. What do we do? So if it's above the belly button and below the jaw, we put an airtight dressing on called an occlusive dressing. We don't want air getting in there. That can kill them. Below the jaw, and in between the jaw and the belly button. And if it's a gunshot wound, always look for an exit wound. May not have one, but look. Any questions? All right, open abdominal wounds. That's an evisceration. That's when your belly gets ripped open and all your guts fall out. It's called evisceration. Those people lose heat fast. They get hypothermic very fast because all your internal organs, especially your large bowel like that, that's very vascular. And there's nothing to keep the heat in, so they get hypothermic real fast. So in a perfect world, you use sterile gauze to sterile dressing and dress it. You don't put the organs back in. You don't try to push it back in. Let the surgeons do that. But then you cover it with a aluminum foil shiny side in to reflect the radiant heat back in if you have Reynolds wrap on your unit. Any questions? Yes.
What do we moist that still goes?
Sterile water.
Um, this, does this qualify as a trauma hospital?
Yeah, it's an open wound proximal to the elbows or knees.
Okay.
Question.
What scenarios do you tend to encounter people in this state?
Believe it or not, the most eviscerations I've seen
Yeah.
have been post laparotomy when the staples have blown out when they roll over in bed.
Wow.
That's the most common.
Wow.
Yeah, it's when a doctor goes in, because most of the time now they do laparoscopy, so they don't see it as much. They go
Yeah.
with tubes and cameras,
Mhm.
but they still lay people all the way open. If they're an obese person, they roll over and it puts too much stress on the staples. It'll blow the staples out and everything just goes plunk on the bed next to them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's like, oh, there's the large bowel, and there's the small intestine, and there's the tummy. Oh, that's a pancreas. You can identify it all right there. As you have one of those laser things, but make sure there's not a cat in the room.
It's like ever.
But
Their internal organs are outside the body.
we wrap it in a moist, sterile dressing and get them to the hospital. We don't ever put it in a pillowcase, or maybe that's what you have to do.
As a transport
Yeah.
area,
Put it in a pillowcase next to like a giant colostomy bag. So throughout this class, we're going to show you a lot of things of what not to do. There's going to be some more videos here, what not to do. But at the end, we'll show you some things that are pretty impressive. So amputations, you got about 5 hours to get these people from the time of amputation to a reattachment center. And they may be able to say that if it's a clean amputation and you do the right things. Don't get the amputated part wet. Keep it dry, put it on ice, but don't let it freeze.
Is it 5 hours, you said?
5 hours.
5 hours?
Anybody ever seen a Cousin It from the Addams Family? Oh wait, there's that Thing. I can always get those two confused. Thing. It's Thing. I have no idea what's on this video. All right, here we go. What do you do?
I don't know.
We already did. I'm glad they saved the song. That's pretty well revascularized foot. You did a pretty good job. It's a lot of hardware.
Expensive.
1.5 years takes. He's finally walking on it again. Not bad. You can get him there in time. A lot can be done. Here's the amputated thumb. Wash it off. Yeah, this is a life-changing injury. You can't access your cell phone if you aren't able to reattach it. Seal it, put it on ice. Don't let it freeze. All right, so take the stump, make sure it stops bleeding, take the amputated part, put it in a plastic bag, seal it, put it on ice. Make sure there's not life-threatening injuries from the distracting injury. Amputations are a distracting injury. They will distract you. Any questions? All right, animal bites.
Seen when animals attack. You've seen amazing high-speed police chases. And now, coming soon to HBO, when animals attack in high-speed chases. This man has just robbed the bank. He's being pursued by cops. He is traveling at speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. If he makes it to the exit ramp, the police will not be able to catch him. Only one thing can stop him now. When animals attack in high-speed chases.
Hi, I'm Bob Watkins, the host of When Animals Attack in High-Speed Chases 2. On this show, you'll see graphic images of bloody animal attacks and the messy remains of horrible car accidents over and over and over again.
Let's see that first crash again. The squirrel was killed, but amazingly, the driver survived.
The squirrel attack? I didn't even mind rolling 17 times. But don't cuff me after I've broken every bone in my body.
This is Anna Warner, victim of a vicious animal attack.
My husband and me were camping in Killer Bear Park. The park ranger said there had been bear sightings in the past, but there was nothing to worry about now.
Basically, I lied.
A car comes speeding into the park with a bear at the wheel. It knocked us 10 feet. My husband, thank God, was killed instantly. But amazingly, I lived. And I knew that attack was not an accident because the bear backed up and drove over me maybe about 7 times.
There was a police photo of Anna just after the attack. What Anna didn't know at the time was there was also a deer in the car riding shotgun. The attack in the park, officers pursued the bear and the deer.
The bear didn't have a license, was baffled by right turns on red.
For a few miles, the deer takes the wheel, but hits a deer, and the bear takes the wheel back.
Later, the arrogant bear gives the police the finger. This causes the bear to lose control, and the cops run him off the road. The deer tries to toss beer cans out the car. The deer is taken into custody. The bear surrenders. Once out of the vehicle, he pretends to be hurt, but then shoves an officer aside and makes a break for the woods. The foot races on. In desperation, the bear runs into a nearby home. The bear tries to disguise himself as a fancy thrower. Well, they cuff the rug. They also arrest another rug just to be on the safe side.
He'll be spending the next 20 years in jail as Smokey the Bitch.
Next week on
questions about animal bites? Serious stuff. I don't know why you guys are laughing. Now, this is a real bear attack. Photo op. Look how excited she is. Oh yeah. Did it? I don't know. This one's brutal too. Pit bulls have an amazing amount of power in their jaws.
Who knows what might have happened if the river had become gray?
Julie.
Oops. All right. So if a grizzly bear just does a small bite on you, oh wait, no, small animal bites you. You got to worry about rabies and possible infection. Large animal bites can kill you. Here's some large animal bites. Alligators are large animals. It's a good idea to stick your body parts into animals. Sells a lot of tickets. This guy's a professional. Here goes that arm. That was from the video, How to Become Left-Handed.
Have you seen the movie Nope yet?
Which movie?
Nope.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's all about exploiting animals for entertainment.
And the consequences?
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
It's a really good movie.
Is it one by Jordan
Ambiguous,
Peele?
but
That's the Jordan Peele movie.
yeah.
Dangerous part of the act.
You guys want to wish to proceed?
Yes.
This is fatal. Never get out of your car in a safari. They're in a fight. It's domestic violence. She's angry at him, so she gets out to walk away because they're fighting.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. In the tiger exhibit.
They can't stand you. These tigers are nice.
But I'm pretty sure she didn't die. It was whoever killed them.
No, she died.
Oh my god.
Look how fast the Rangers respond.
Oh, wow.
She's long gone by the time they get there.
हमारे शेरशाह उन शेरों के आगे खड़े हो गए और अपनी जैकेट उतारकर शेर को गिफ्ट करने लगे, मगर लायन को जैकेट का कलर पसंद नहीं आया। शेरशाह को पहले अटैक में झटका तो लगा, मगर उनकी बुद्धि ठिकाने नहीं आई, जिसका सबूत है ये दूसरा अटैक। नाखून चुभ चुके हैं, दांत गड़ चुके हैं, शायद पतलून भी गीली हो चुकी होगी, लेकिन बहादुर शेरशाह को शायद इसमें मजा आ रहा है। अरे इतना खतरा तो वो सुबह ब्रेकफास्ट में खाता है। मगर शेरों से ज्यादा अनप्रिडिक्टेबल इस वक्त हमारे शेरशाह जी हैं। इनका क्या किया जाए?
अजब जानवर, गजब।
This is always how you know how good your friends are if you're being eaten by a shark to keep videoing.
This is actual home video of Heather trying desperately to get to the shark. The shark bit down on her right leg, then let go. Matthew reached out to Heather with a pole. Out to Heather and say, Heather, grab the stick. Just grab the stick.
Grab the stick, I'm not getting in. All right, so rabies. Prior to about 10 years ago, rabies was 100% fatal. I think there's like 3 or 4 now surviving cases. So it's only like 99.9999% fatal now. But the good news is that it's got a long incubation period. And after you've been exposed, you can get vaccinated before the incubation period is done and survive. But if you wait till rabies kicks in at the end of the incubation period, it's bye, and it's not a pleasant death. And there's also things that are similar to rabies. They don't really know what they are. There's a video of one of those here that they just don't even know.
Of all of the prevalent diseases which still take thousands of lives each year, few strike as much raw animalistic fear in the mind as rabies. The rabies virus still claims over 50,000 lives each year worldwide, and the fear surrounding it has led to folklore and legends from centuries ago right up until the modern day. In medieval times, the sight of a person afflicted with rabies even led folk to give understandable merit to stories of ghouls and vampires, which are passed on through every generation. The symptoms of rabies are commonly thought to be the cliched foaming at the mouth and extreme rage, which in modern times naturally led to the concept of zombies in literature and movies. The full extent of the symptoms, however, is unknown to most, and the true nature of this horrific disease is enough to make anyone who suffers from it lose their mind. The virus causes the victim's brain to swell to the point of outgrowing their skull, which creates an overload of pressure on the brain itself. This, in turn, causes an increased sensitivity to light and other sensory input, all of which become heightened to the point of being painful to the subject. To a rabies sufferer, even water becomes an enemy, causing extreme pain when swallowed, which in turn causes aggressive salivation and foaming at the mouth from dehydration, and when in combination with the affected mental state, causes the sufferer to have an extreme aversion to water, to the point of causing distress and anger. A person who has contracted rabies will typically show recognizable symptoms after 1 to 3 months of infection, but in some cases, it can take only a week, and in others, a full year. On September 31st, 1991, however, a so-called variant strain of rabies was seemingly discovered in the Canary Islands at the Costa Adeje hospital after an 11-year-old boy was bitten by a bat while on holiday with his family. He was immediately taken to the hospital as a precaution, even though the whole family had already received their rabies shots. Within 24 hours of admission to the hospital, it became clear to the staff on hand that this was no traditional case of rabies. The onset of similar symptoms occurred much more rapidly than typically expected, with the boy, who remains nameless at the request of the family, having visceral aggressiveness toward nurses who tried to give them drinks. What the doctors eventually noticed, however, caused them to enlist outside help from the WHO, World Health Organization. They noticed that after 22 hours of being bitten, the boy had developed severe depressions in his skin on numerous places over his body, including his arms, legs, chest, and back. These depressions were raw and extremely painful as he lashed out when staff examined them. After the WHO arrived at the hospital within 48 hours of the initial bite, they ascertained that these depressions were in fact being caused by a breakdown of tissue beneath the epidermis, which was in turn causing the outer layer of skin to sag over the empty area where flesh had been. These depressions grew rapidly in size and frequency all over his body, and after 76 hours of torment, the boy died of organ failure. And after the family granted permission to give an autopsy, it was found his liver, intestines, lungs, and even parts of his brain had almost completely wasted away from the virus, as if he had decomposed while still alive. The only relieving outcome of this event was that no other cases were reported, since skin contact with the patient didn't lead to infection. The bat population in the cave where the boy had been playing was culled to avoid further infection, and further traces of the strain were found in 6% of the bat population, which leads experts to believe that the strain may have still been in its infancy. The most curious thing about this unusual strain, however, is that it was most likely not rabies at all, since it was later confirmed by the WHO that the DNA of this virus was an exact match to that of the fungus found in the Russian Mir space station in 1988, which was confirmed by microbiologist Natalia Novikova to be a highly aggressive fungi which feeds on plastic, glass, and even some metals, and was highly reactive to UV light, which initially caused it to thrive on the window of the space station and even began to degrade its windows and hull to the point of putting the cosmonauts in danger of ship integrity failure. To this day, there is only one reported case of this viral infection, which itself seems to have mutated from or even arrived on the fungus aboard the Mir space station as a sort of piggyback through space. The origins of this virus and fungi are still unknown to this day.
That'll make you sleep well tonight. Space rabies.
Go ahead. You deserve it.
Rabies is one of the most terrifying diseases known to humans. And if the symptoms develop, you need medical attention. Or
They
you're
just
going to
had a
die.
rabid coyote in the back east this week.
In
Attacked 2 different people.
1955, this man was attacked by a rabid wolf. The medical team at the Pasteur Institute in Iran filmed the progression of his disease.
This man developed symptoms of rabies. He displays a characteristic restlessness and agitation. As a precaution against the convulsions which commonly occur in rabies, the patient is secured hand and foot. The most familiar clinical symptom of rabies is associated with difficulty in swallowing. When fluid comes in contact with the throat, it is violently expelled, at the same time producing painful, spasmodic muscular contraction.
The medical team could do nothing but document this man's rabies. Within 5 days, he was dead.
The problem with rabies is that, unlike most diseases, which Mother Nature is merciful, in which you lapse into coma or rotundant, with rabies, as you're dying, you are intermittently fully coherent, and you can fully express verbally to your family how scared you are, how awful it is, and how you know you're going to die. So for that reason, it's really, really feared.
The thing about rabies is that it affects the nervous system. So it affects the brain, the spinal cord, the thinking parts of a mammal. And it doesn't just randomly wreck those thinking parts, it changes them in a specific way to help the virus succeed. Western medicine has made a lot of progress in fighting rabies. In fact, if you get rabies from an animal, there will be several weeks before you get symptoms, and there's still time in there for medicine to work. But once those symptoms develop, that virus has made its way into your brain. And at that point, medicine may not be able to help you at all.
Lesson here is don't get rabies. Mhm. Human bites. Humans have very filthy mouths.
Some nasty stuff would never need to be a bite almost.
Get a zero.
That was very unhappy. Look at this. It looked as if Tyson bared his teeth at one stage in the exchange. Yes, that is here. That's right. Holy God, a lot of tears from that. You see the blood on the ear. That was definitely a bite. Well, feelings are running very hot indeed in there. Holyfield was outraged by that. And what is the referee going to do about that? 1 point deduction for Tyson. It's here. Now let's take a look again. It's just here. He gets into the position there. Watch. You see, he stays there. Yeah, he bites him there. You see him lift his teeth. And Holyfield in agony at that point, trying to rip free. An awful lot.
Unbelievable. No, it was replay. So treat as any other open wound. Bring Tyson in for rabies testing. All right. This is where it's some pretty graphic stuff here. Burns. So you get a burn is when your tissue has more energy than it can displace and it damages the tissue. That's what a burn is. There's a lot of different ways. There's thermal burns, there's chemical burns, there's friction burns. Big thing is stop, drop, and roll. This guy did not learn that here at school. He also did learn don't run from the police. He also did learn don't try to drive through a toll booth at 100 miles an hour. Huh? Yeah. There he is. He's out. But he doesn't stop, drop, and roll. He just runs around. This is the first year is out in Nevada. The first year of the Burning Man. May 10th, 2007. Just kidding. That's not real. They were doing Burning Man long before 2007. I think it's in September. This is the bottom of the gene pool. That's a volleyball cut off filled with gas.
All right.
No.
Yeah, you down, ready?
He's gonna hit with the baseball bat. Yeah, he is. And if you're going to the fire department, please make sure you understand what fuel loading is. Very important.
Charles gets ready to torture. It's a lot more than bargain for. No. One spring, Charles barely escaped the flaming death trap. No time to lose, he dives into the water and swims to safety. In trouble when
Damn lucky the second boat didn't run him over.
Why didn't you do that?
Well, they were doing a training burn, but he didn't understand fuel loading. He used like 10 times more fuel than he needed. They had to do a training on how to set up a training burn before they did the training burn. Burns are distracting injuries. You can have life-threatening injuries that people miss because they're distracted by the burns. So what do you want to know? You want to know what the depth of the burn is. So there's two different ways of calculating depth, but they're the same, if that makes sense. They're just called different things. So you got first-degree burns, which are also known as superficial burns. It's when it's just the outer layer of the epidermis is damaged. Then you got second-degree burns, which are also known as partial thickness burns. And that's where it burns through the epidermis. You get blisters, very painful. They're the most painful of all the burns. Then a third-degree burns when it burns through the epidermis, the dermis, into the fat and muscle. That's called a third-degree burn. They actually don't hurt because it destroys the nerve endings, but the second-degree burns usually that are surrounding it usually hurt like hell. That's also called a full thickness burn, a third degree. So you might hear it as either one of those, first, second, or third, or superficial, partial thickness, or full thickness burns. Next thing you want to know is the extent of the burn. You have to know your rule of nines. There's 11 areas of the body that are 9% each. So your head's 9%, your anterior chest 9%, your anterior abdomen's 9%, your back is 18%, each arm is 9%, each leg is 18%, and that gives you 99% of the body. And then there's 1% that's saved for the genitalia. Any questions?
11 areas of the body are 9%.
Yeah.
The one that's
1%.
okay.
And then if it's a small child, yes.
How would you write that out on the PCR? You're trying to describe the area.
I always put it down on, I just describe the burns. Like I go, half of the forearm, 4.5%, the entire anterior chest, 9%, and the face, entire face, 4.5%, total 18%. Now, if it's a kid, if it's a child, you take 4.5% off each leg and give it to the head because they have an 18% head. Those kids have giant heads. Take me to your leader. Any questions?
Given the percentage of the body to put on that, do you have to, I assume there would be different degree burns on different parts of the body. Do you specify that as well?
Yep. Any questions? That's what a superficial / first degree burn looks like. Sunburn. And that's what a partial thickness or a second degree burn looks like. And that's what a third degree burn looks like. Any questions? All right. Here's the biggest not what to do video you'll see in EMT class. So you can count the things that go wrong here. I had to edit this video, about 3/4 edited out to take so long. Remember, you should have a 10-minute scene time for critical patients. This also happens you have paramedics at scene instead of EMTs. Stop breathing. Huh? Say it again. The oxygen setup sitting right next to her. Yes, he opens it, leaves it. This gets a defibrillator. That's what we need more paragraphs. Still nobody ventilated the face. You guys think about that?
Oh,
You did a
sick.
really, really good job. I think that person probably.
Yeah.
You saying those were all paramedics?
Sure, huh?
Those were all paramedics?
There's at least 3 or 4 paramedics there, yeah. They're starting IVs, giving drugs, no one was ventilating the patient. There's your rule of 9s. If it's a child, steal 4.5% from each leg and give it to the head. Any question on the rule of 9s? And the rule of 1s is the palm of the patient's spot, the palm surface area is 1%. So however much you can cover with their palm is 1% for each one, yes.
So I know a lot of times people get like full body burns, like sometimes depending on what their clothes are made of, it'll stick to their body.
Yep. Leave it. That's what the burn center will debrief that.
So with like assessing distracting injury or distracting injury and trying to find like other injuries, I mean, how much can you really do with like
You do a full assessment. That's how you don't miss a distracting injury. Head to toe.
head to toe without removing clothing?
Well, you remove what you can.
Okay,
If it's melted into their skin, no, you don't remove that.
yeah.
Yes.
My understanding is sticking your hand in it, peeling off.
Well, I've had that before. That's why you wear gloves. I've had that happen before. You go to pick the patient up and then put them down.
But I
They're
mean,
still-
you just keep going with your assessment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually have one that I picked up once. There was a whole motel on fire. And she had set it on fire and she was burnt like you wouldn't believe. And she was nude. She doesn't have any clothing on. She was nude and set the whole hotel on fire. And so the officer driven down there, he's still gonna lose my, it was already blistered. The pan, I was told her I was gonna lose my car. And he was trying to drag her out. So I was the second one on scene and cause we're right around the corner of my house. So I said, well, let's throw her on the hood of your patrol car and drive her out. So we picked her up, and put her on the hood of the patrol car. Yeah, and all of her skin came off of my gloves. It's like, what are you gonna do? I mean, you leave her there to burn to death? So. She did. She lived and set at least 5 more fires in this county. Seriously.
She got better at her job then.
She did.
Yeah.
So she failed and she improved.
Yeah. See, that's what you do with it.
Exactly. Technically, yeah, but it was my job. Then another one of our off-duty paramedics was eating at the restaurant across the street. He came running over. He was looking at your hell, go make sure she doesn't pull off the hood. So he jumped on top of her. So the patrol car is pulling out and everybody sees him straddling this nude woman on top of the patrol cars. And nobody got pictures. It was the days before cell phone pictures. Nobody got pictures. It was so disappointing.
Hey guys, welcome back. Johnny at Emergency Medical Council bringing you the next video in our series of quick tips, tricks, and techniques you can take with you into the field. Today we're going to be talking about the rule of 9s. It's a quick, simple way to estimate the total body surface area covered by a burn. It's really easy, but it gives some students a lot of trouble. We'll have students ask us questions like, if a patient is burned on both arms, do they get a 9% or is it 18%? If it's only one arm, 4.5%, we're confused. So right now, we're going to clear up all that confusion for you. On the screen, you'll see 2 diagrams, and it's already split up into regions, and they're labeled. And I'm not seeing a whole lot of 9s. I'm seeing 4.5%, 18%, 1%. Where are all the 9s? Thought this was the rule of 9s. If you want to see all the 9s, we're going to divide the body into 11 regions that are each going to represent 9%. We're going to have the head, the chest, the abdomen, the upper back, the lower back, the front left leg, the back left leg, the front right leg, the back right leg, the left arm, and the right arm. And each one of these comprises 9% of your total body surface area. And we have one other region that's going to make up the remaining 1%, and that's going to be the genital region. So let's go a little bit further, make sure everybody understands. If someone has a burn to the face, it's only going to be 4.5%. But if the burn covers their whole head, the face and the back of their head, now we're looking at 9%. If someone had a burn that covered just the anterior portion of their arm, it'll be 4.5%. If it's circumferential, covering the entire arm, anterior and posterior, be 9%. Legs are pretty similar. If it's just covering the front of one leg, 9%. If it's covering the front and back of the leg going the whole way around, 18%. Or if you have the front of both legs burnt, you're looking at 18% again. So if we had a burn to the upper portion of the back, that would be 9%. And we divided the back into upper and lower, but we just as easily could have made it left and right. So we'd have highlighted right now the left half of the back also representing 9%. I think this presented quite a couple scenarios. Hopefully everyone's clear right now, but just to make sure, let's do a couple practice problems to make sure everybody understands this concept. All right, our first problem, a 22-year-old male has circumferential burns on both his legs and genitals. What % of his body is burned? Remember, circumferential means the front and the back. So we're gonna have 9%, 9%, 9, 9, 18, 27, 36% for the legs, plus 1% for the genitals. This person would have 37% of their body burnt. A 57-year-old female tripped and fell into a small campfire. She has burns to her hands, anterior forearms, and upper chest. What percentage of her body has been burnt? So let's start with the hands and anterior forearms. We're not looking at the back, it's all anterior. So the forearm is half of the total arm, so 2 1/4. And both arms, so 2 1/4, 2 1/4, 4.5% of the body's burnt, plus the upper chest. If the chest is worth 9, it would be fair to assume that the upper chest would be worth 4.5 and the lower chest would be worth 4.5. So we have 4.5 for both the anterior forearms and 4.5 for the upper chest, giving us 9% of this patient's body burnt. A 17-year-old male sustained burns to his face and chest, entire left arm, anterior portion of his right arm, and upper third of his abdomen while burning yard debris. What percentage of his body has been burnt? So the face is 4.5%. The chest is 9%. We'll add that together. So far, we're up to 13.5%. His entire left arm, anterior and posterior, is going to be another 9%. We're up to 22.5. The anterior portion of his right arm is just going to be the front. So that's going to be adding another 4.5. So we're up to 27. 1/3 of his abdomen. The whole abdomen is worth 9. So we can, not even assume 1/3 of it would be 3%. Add that. We're up to 30% of this patient's body being burnt. So that's the rule of 9s. I hope it's clear to everybody, but if not, leave us a comment, ask us a question in the comment section below. We'll get back to you. If you liked our...
Any questions? Yes.
On the second one, wasn't it like 20% burns on the lady? It was like in both interior arms.
That'd be interior arms would be 4.5 each. It was just
So it'd
interior.
be 9, upper chest is 9, and then for her hands are 2 each, right? So that'd be 20.
It was just a little
You
loose.
said
It was a
nine.
little loose for this definition.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, how to burn children.
This video
How to
is an
assess
introduction to the
children.
rule of 9s
didn't
when
come out
applying
right.
it to a child or an infant, someone who has disproportional body parts as opposed to an adult. If you want to know how to do the adult rule of nines, check out our adult rule of nines video. And if you want to know the clinical significance of why we do the rule of nines, check out our Parkland formula video on why we do this or why.
Everybody else says me creeped out about this kid's fingers.
Yeah.
Important, this is done by everyone from a first responder to a physician because there is some clinical significance to being able to quickly spit out the estimated percentage of total body surface area that's been affected by a burn. So now we're going to talk about how we do this with a child. And you notice in this kiddo here, I drew a really large head, which is the big difference between adults and children, right? They have a disproportionately large head as opposed to an adult. Just look at a baby or an infant to really hit that point home or think of that. But so the rule of nines, kind of the mnemonic or the working memory tool that we're using for the adult is nines, rule of nines, that's in the title, right? So we're going to start with the arms. Each arm is awarded a 9. So rule of nines, that's the smallest appendage, nines, okay? How this infant differs from, or this child differs from an adult is they have the larger head. So rather than just awarding 9 to the head, we're going to award 18 to the head. And the torso is still going to be 36. And then.
So I'm not a very good drawer. This guy drew the eyes and mouth sideways, like the kid's neck's broken. I don't get it.
Here, we talk about in the other video, if you're unsure of what's left, just add, subtract from 100, see what's
Just
left.
take
And
4.5
by
off
two.
each
You guys,
18.
in this case, that would be an awkward 28%. So for child, the rule of nines, legs are the hardest things to remember, and that's because each leg is an awkward 14 instead of being a lovely 9, 18, 36, multiple of 9. It's an awkward 14. But again, just subtract from 100 and divide by 2.
Just remember, kids are 4.5 years old. Take 4.5 off each leg and give it to the head, and you've got the rule of nines for kids. Well, then you think about it, if he was burned, he probably would be. I don't know. Just remember 4.5. All right, think about what you were at 4.5, then think about burns. Any question on what a critical burn is? Anytime you have circumferential burns, or burns all the way around, that causes problems. Anytime there's a burn to the face or the airway, that's a critical burn. Quality of life burns, burns to the palms of your hands, the bottom of your feet, or genitalia. You have no idea how important those are to you until you don't have them. And then, of course, burns by a large percentage is that are over 10% of full thickness or 30% partial thickness. Any questions? Airway burns can be delayed. If they have soot in their nose and mouth with exposure to fire, you need to get them transported immediately. Airway burns are delayed. The edema starts swelling up inside the airways and shuts the airways off and they die.
So like if you look in their mouth, that's
got soot or potential for burns, yeah, that's critical. Very critical. Kind of like this idiot. So, you're all in college. You're gonna drink a lighted shot, I can't stop you. I recommend against it. But if you're drinking lighted shots, you put your mouth over the shot to put the fire out, smother it with oxygen, and then drink it. You don't pour a flaming waterfall into your airway.
Oh my God!
Most terrifying part of this video is most of them were probably breathing later that night. All right, so, huh?
Did he go to the hospital?
I have no idea. Probably not.
You kept drinking, dude.
I mean, no, he definitely, I mean, like socially, no, he definitely didn't, but.
So whether you go into the academy or going on the fire department,
Start like closing up then.
this is a great idea on what not to do. There's at least 4 what not to do's here. Not having the escape route, not having light on the roof, not wearing a breathing apparatus, opening your vent hole between yourself and your only access to the roof. But hey, it's okay. They're paid professionals in the union. Why would you open the vent hole on the other side of that? Especially when you don't have an escape route or a line on the roof.
The oil rushes to control to reignite.
Give me 1 second.
So what it is, you're gonna do it, you're gonna do Steve. What it is, where so anyway, that fire, it's going, it's gonna go.
I know about it was tomorrow.
You're on it. Possessed. Yeah, we call the Catholic Church or send a priest over. All right, any questions on moderate thickness burns? These are not as bad as severe burns or critical burns. Still hurt. And then we have minor burns. Any questions? Pediatric considerations, body surface area. Surface to mass ratio is a problem with kids. So let me give you an example. So what would be not a critical burn on an adult surface area is a critical burn on a child because they don't have the body mass to surface area that an adult does. Let me give you an example. If I were to light this piece of paper on fire right now, how long would it take to burn up? Couple seconds. If I crumpled this paper into a complete tight ball and put the same amount of flame on it, same lighter flame on it, how long would it take to burn it up? Long time. It's got the same amount of mass, but it's got a much denser surface to mass ratio is less. Does that make sense? So adults have a lot of fat muscle. So that's why they have a better surface to mass ratio than children do. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Any questions on pediatric critical burns? We just watched that. So what do? Scene safety, BSI. Remove the patient from the fire. Or if it's chemical burns, from the chemical, remove them from the causative agent. Flush for about 20 minutes. It'll be your protocol, but flush for about 20 minutes to cool the burn. Just because you remove them from the causative agent doesn't mean that's not still absorbing energy and still destroying tissue. Wrap them up because they're going to lose heat loss rapidly. In 1995, UC Davis, which is the closest burn center to here, did a study of patients, burn patients coming from EMS. 84% brought in by EMS were severely hypothermic. We overcooled the patients, then didn't wrap them up. So they've lost their skin, which is what keeps you warm. And then we flush them with ice cold water for 20 minutes. Then if you don't wrap them up to preserve heat, they stay hypothermic. Any questions? Yes.
Should we do like for burn patients, like when we do vitals, also take things signs, check for them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the big thing is flush for 20 minutes at the site of the burn. Or whatever your protocol says.
Okay.
It changes every couple years. Yep, if you can. All right, chemical burns. The most common type of chemical burn is dry lime, which reacts and burns when you put water on it. So brush all the dry lime off as much as you can and do not flush it unless you have copious amounts of water. Copious is an unlimited large water supply. Like being able to put them underneath an open fire hydrant or an open butt 1.5-inch hose. Better be a shower without a California water restriction filter in it. Anyone that's reasonably intelligent's already removed that from their shower if they live in California. Any questions? Not saying I would do that since this is a recorded class. I would never go in and remove that disc. Any questions?
What did you say with dry what?
Dry lime.
Lime?
Yes. Dry lime.
What do they use dry lime?
Concrete. I know that. Helps cure concrete in cold and wet zones. I'm not sure what else they use it for besides that. How do they use it in construction? Any other construction people here?
Use it for fertilizer, concrete treating. You can use it in different chemical processes, for plastics.
And not quite as bad, but it'll still hurt you, is also dry lemon. It's got citric acid in it. Just kidding. Well, it does have citric acid in it. Any questions about how to treat a chemical burn? All right, electrical burns. If you have an electrical burn, there will be an in point and an out point. There'll have to be a ground. Electricity travels from a positive to a ground. And everything in between those 2 points internally will be burned. This is what happens when you don't turn the power off and you're working on a switch. That's a typical way of how it happens. Shows you where the positive edge, the grounds are through or D. Not uncommon. Any questions? Yep. Yeah. GFI. Yeah. Because it'll hopefully ground fault out before it kills her. So that's assuming that there's still majority of the buildings don't have GFI, only the ones in the last 30 years. They've either been rewired or built to modern code. Schools, yeah, but how many houses here in Weed don't have GFI? Probably 70%. Okay. Critically important, folks. Critically important that you pay attention to this. So far in this class, we've gone over how the system fails, what goes wrong. This is an actual case history that actually happened of what can happen when everything goes right. We talk about EMS being a machine with a lot of gears, and every gear has to be working properly. If every gear is working properly, you will be amazed. Things that you wouldn't think are even possible can be done. And this case is probably the best case that shows what happens when everybody's doing what they're doing and everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. Be prepared. This is extremely graphic. This also happened locally. So, in May every year, beginning of May to the end of May, Labor Day, not Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend, Lake Shasta gets invaded by ducks. I know how many people know that. There's a massive duck population. Yes, University of Oregon. Not ducks with feathers, but college students.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, a lot
Also
of,
get a lot of ducks.
a lot of drunken ducks. Drunk ducks. So in this case, it was May 7th, 1992. And a 19-year-old female was swimming behind the houseboat that they had rented. And someone turned the houseboat's engine on and put it in reverse and backed over her, took her through the motorboat propeller of the houseboat. That's a big propeller. And it took her right through it. Face, left arm, chest, abdomen, and lower extremities. Fortunately for her, there's a Shasta County boating deputy within earshot of the blood curdling the screams of her friends as her body parts started floating up to the surface. Fortunately, there was no sharks in the area with all the blood and meat. Anyway, deputy drives over to see what's wrong, sees this, drags her into his boat, starts screaming over the radio for help. Give me full medical to roll dispatch. At that exact moment, there was an air ambulance flying to Mount Shasta to pick up a cardiac patient from Redding. They heard the scanner trying to send the helicopter, looked down, saw the light bar flashing on the sheriff's deputy boat, and said, wonder if that's the snap. So they went, landed on the shore. Deputy goes, holy crap, we're in luck. Drives over there, throws on the helicopter. She goes into a full cardiac arrest 3 times. From the time they put her in the helicopter till they get her to the level 2 trauma center in Redding. It's in the daytime. Everybody's in house. All the surgery teams are at the hospital. They give them a 20-minute notice because they're loading. They call, activate the trauma team, while the trauma team's waiting in the ER. This is what they bring in. Where do you start? So where do you start? You start with airway, bleeding, and make sure they're ventilated properly. And that's what they did. And stop the bleeding, multiple bleeding spots. That stopped it. Should get what, 48 units of blood? 56 units of blood. Yeah. A unit is a pint. 2 pints in a quart, there's 6 quarts in your body. So 12. She got about 4 to 5 times her entire blood volume recirculated through her to keep her alive. They didn't know where to start. So if you look, you see that right there? Yeah. That was the only identifiable landmark. That's pubic hair. Okay, so her left leg was cleanly cut off and floated away. Deputy grabbed the amputated left leg. Very smart deputy. Right leg and right arm were completely destroyed, but it went completely through the propeller. So after they got her stabilized, she wasn't bleeding to death. They went and they took all of the skin off of her left leg and used that to rebuild her chest and abdomen to give her cover because she lost most of the skin into the lake. They took her left femur and replaced her right femur because as you see her right femur, it ain't happening. Her right arm, they could not find her radial nerve. It's gone. Because it had been completely chopped through, floating in chest like sort of probably in the belly of a bass or a trap. So they took the sciatic nerve out of her left leg and the neurosurgeons autografted her sciatic nerve into her radial nerve in her right arm. All right. There's the left leg. They completely used all the parts of it to rebuild the rest of her. Yeah. Not bad, huh? See her belly button? Your belly button, there's the right leg. Just most of her skin from her left leg grafted back on. They had to use the left leg, didn't come back, they had to use it for parts. That's a picture of them grafting the sciatic nerve into her right arm. Or maybe it's her left arm, I can't remember. 27 days, 1 day short of 4 weeks. They discharged her to a rehabilitation center to teach her how to walk and use her arm again and start aggressive physical therapy.
She ended with just one arm.
She had 2 arms, 1 leg.
How long did that?
18 months after the graft of the sciatic nerve into her arm, she got full radial nerve function. It took 18 months, and she's got a left leg prosthesis. Ready for this? So every April they do a trauma symposium at Mercy Reading, and she is their flagship patient still. It's been what, 30 years, 40 years, 92, 2002, 12, 20, 32 years. There she is. Here's her left arm.
Wow.
And she usually comes to the trauma symposium to be as, hey, look at this, I survived this. Because everything fell in the exact order. If one person was not having a good day that day, or one piece of that gear was out of sight, she would not be alive. So if you do your job, you come prepared every day, and you are prepared for the worst thing that could possibly happen in the blink of an eye. You know, if you're going to a transfer, oh, it's just an inter-facility transfer, oh boy, and you don't have your poop together, and you suddenly have this happen on the way to pick up your patient's going to die. You have to be prepared when you're on duty at every given moment. Any questions?
You know how long that surgery took?
No, there was like over 40 surgeries. Wasn't one surgery, it was over 40 separate surgeries.
Did the you still want to stop the bleeding on the way?
They did everything they could. It was a flight nurse and a paramedic. And they did everything they could. You can't. There's only so much you can do.
Was there any organ?
Yeah. A lot of infection though. She almost had a sepsis a couple times too. Because Tracer Chest Lake is just basically a toilet. I don't know how people sort of. It's just nasty water.
Yeah.
It's not like Cisco at all. It's just. Yeah, the massive bacteria that we know all our organs are still intact. And rip the skin off. That's just so nasty. It's the nastiest lake. Any questions? You guys didn't ask about the cardiac patient that the helicopter is going to. Yeah. It was actually the best thing that happened to the cardiac patient. No, they were going to get one. So the cardiac patient got lucky. They went by ground to Reading, the best paramedic that's ever existed. So.
Did you?
I wouldn't say that about myself.
What happened?
The cardiac patient?
Yeah.
They're fine. As far as I know, they did fine. They're just having chest, they're just infarcting their heart. Just a heart attack. It's nothing much. All right, head and neck injuries. Head and face and neck injuries. Sorry. Not for today. Failure is going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. Your choice is after something happens is what's going to make or break you. It's up to you, not up to anybody else. Doesn't matter how pissed you are at someone else. It's your choice, your actions, what's going to make or break you. All right, so today we're going to learn about the anatomy and physiology of the face and neck. What can block your airway? If you don't have an airway, you're dead. Name the types of facial and neck injuries, the assessment of it, and how to treat it to keep them from dying. Any questions? That's what the anatomy of the brain, the skull, and the neck looks like. Any questions? You should be familiar with these things. No questions? The foramen magnum? No, that's not the foramen magnum. You talking about the mastoid process? No, I don't. All right, how do you get face and neck injuries?
Oh, it's.
Yeah, no, he's a lizard. All right, anatomy of the eye. You have no important how much you take your eye for granted until you don't have one. Until someone throws that stale pig beak. Big thing about eyeballs. The cheeriest humor. It's the jelly that gives your eyeball form. There is no replacement for it. No one's developed it. If you rupture an eyeball, the cheeriest humor spills out like a donut filled jelly filled donut. There's no putting it back. You lose the eye, it's dead. So you should be familiar with what the sclera is, the cornea, the pupil, anterior chambers, the iris. Any questions? They'll cut it off. They reshape the cornea. They go to the lasers and zap, 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 and they reshape the cornea. It's like the lens so you can see better. Then you have dry eyes the rest of your life. You have to constantly moisturize. Eye drops are screwed.
Most people think need glasses because the cornea is misformed.
Yep. No, most corneas are not perfect. But if they would work on their weaknesses, they would get better. Problem with corneas, they don't work on their weaknesses. They have a pattern formula of failure. Any questions? Don't be a cornea.
Oh.
Yeah. That's serious.
He's fine.
That's an impaled nail into the eye. Yeah, whoever was working with the nail got nailed it. That's what a blown pupil looks like. When the pupil's fully dilated, the other one's not. It's called a blown pupil.
What does that happen?
Usually the intracranial pressure in the head and the brain's getting squashed. We'll go into the next, more detail in the next slideshow. So your eye should be a normal size and color. Pupil should be equal round reactive to light. Reactive, that's pearl, PERREO. Yes.
No, I know that like pirates and stuff, they like have the eye patch.
Yeah, you know why?
Yeah, so when they
Arr.
go into the dark, they stick the
Exactly.
patch over it and
Freaking
see in the
smart.
dark.
Because it takes too long for your eyes to adjust to the dark and to the lights. That's why they just flop the patch over. So that way they can rapidly go upstairs and downstairs.
I've seen like a bunch of people with their eyes dilated and what's not. And
It's usually when they come out of the eye doctor though, or they're on drugs
oh, okay.
or alcohol.
Yeah, eyes are always broken.
What's that?
If you want to see somebody's on drugs, you look at their eyes.
True. Well, it depends on what kind of drugs. If they're on a fight or flight drug like an amphetamine or spethamimetic, it's going to be dilated. Or alcohol. If it's a narcotic, it's going to be constricted because that's a central nervous system depressant. So yes. So any questions on eyes? Pearl. Everybody knows what pearl stands for? Pupils equal round reactive delay, PERRL. Not spelled like the stone, it's worth money, the plan. PERRL, pearl, pupils equal round reactive delay. Which is dumb because it should be really purple because 2 is in there, but they dropped the T in 2. Pupils equal round reactive to light, but they leave the T out. I don't know why they do that. It's a silent T. Any questions? All right. So what do you do for an impaled object in the eye? You make a donut. Yes. How do you make a donut? Call for law enforcement. I'm just kidding. What'd you do? Huh? Yeah. Well, believe it or not, we used to, so 107, you gotta take this, that's where the academy used to, police academy. And so I told someone I'd give them 100 bonus points to keep brought in 3 dozen donuts. And they did it one night. It was like, it was bad. They didn't touch it. Jack grew up in the law enforcement. You know, my grandfather's law enforcement, my brother, my nephew goes, everybody's in law enforcement. I'm the only one that's not. Anyway, so I get to make fun of it. So how do you make a donut? You wrap gauze around your finger, then you put it over the impaled object. Then you cover both eyes, because eyes work together, at least they're supposed to. So if you cover the impaled object, you don't cover the other eye, then you look around, it's gonna rip the hell out of the eye and then rip out the material. So you cover both eyes. And if you feel like you put a Dixie cup over the one or something like that, so it doesn't put pressure on it. It was me like you put Dixie cups on both eyes, so it looks like something out of a science fiction movie. There, like that. So not a big dude, but a pencil. Somebody threw a pencil in the classroom, stuck in her eye. So they made a donut, put the donut over it, and then wrapped it and covered both eyes. It was, yeah, they did good. And look how perfectly they put the powdered sugar on it. Wrapped it around their fingers. The fingers around. At least it should be. Oh, come on. No, we still got it just on YouTube. Get to the hospital, that's what they gotta do. Hope they don't have the surgeon doesn't have the shakes today. Ah! Anybody think these guys are overpaid? Any questions? Sewing it back together. Yeah, cornea. Whoa, we don't want to do that. I had an even better one where there's a fish hook in the eye, but YouTube said it didn't meet their community standards. They took it away. All right, chemical burns in the eye. You have to flush their eyes for 20 minutes. Flushing eyes is not easy. Yes.
Are you doing the 20 minutes like before you transport them?
Yes.
Okay.
Or during transport.
Okay.
I prefer to do it during transport.
Okay.
So I do is I lay them on their back and take a nasal cannula, tape the bridge of the cannula on the bridge of their nose with one prong in each corner of the eye. Then I run the nasal cannula into IV tubing, spike an IV line, and let a normal saline run directly into their eyes and keep flushing for 20 minutes.
Okay.
I learned that at the Cantera spill in 1991. We got to flush like 500 patients' eyes, so I got really good at it.
Where?
The Cantera spill. There was 30,000 gallons of holy cow, I can't think of the name of it. Of a pesticide. I can't remember the name of it. No. God dang it. Anyway, it was the most popular pesticide used for farming because it's the safest. And they didn't even have to have a placard because it's inert until you mix it with water. They spray it on the crops. And when the morning dew comes on, metamsodium is what it's called. And when the morning dew comes on, when it reacts with water, it makes hydrogen sulfide gas. So it kills every insect on the crops and then evaporates into the atmosphere and it's gone. So it's actually one of the safest and best environmental chemicals. Well, at Cantera Loop between Dunsmere and Shasta, they dumped a tank car of it at 30,000 gallons into the Sacramento River. So you had a cloud of hydrogen sulfide gas went down the Sacramento River through Dunsmere, through Castella, and all the way down into Lake Shasta and made a big, nice glob inside Lake Shasta that they aerated out and finally got rid of it all. But anyway, we ended up with 500 patients in less than an hour. So we had to set up a triage center. That's what we ended up doing was we got massive cases from the health department of normal saline. We just flushed eyes for 4 days straight. Any questions about how to flush an eye? So if you don't have that, you're either gonna have to use an eye wash station, or there's some really bad examples right here. The upper right, that doesn't work. Lower left, that doesn't work. And the bottom right, I don't even know what that is. They're trying to drown them by bobbing browns. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. The upper left is the best way to do it, if you have the ability to. Any questions? Yes.
You hold their eyes open for them?
If they won't do it, yeah. It's not easy. It's a fight, believe me. People just, they don't cooperate. Thermal burns. You got to be able to explain to them, have them comprehend they're going to lose their vision if you don't let them hold their eyes open. Yeah, you just got to get them to go to a different place psychologically and let you do it. Like pretend you're out in the field with butterflies. All right, light burns. Ultraviolet lights from people that worship the sun and look directly at it or don't wear a mask for welding. Will damage eyes. It'll feel like someone rubbed sandpaper against their eyes is what they'll describe it as. So you keep the eyes moist, cover both eyes, get them into the hospital. They can put ointments and gel in there. It's gonna take a while for it to heal. Not a fun time for the patient.
And this is like snow blindness, yeah, where it's like the.
Yeah, but not in snow, like snow blind, it's like a mild version of this. Looking directly at the sun is what will actually go to our directly at UV rays. But yeah, snow blindness is a reflection of the UV rays off the snow.
Is this kind of like the same as welding?
Yeah. Yes. People that don't wear the lenses for the welding, this will do it to them. Lacerations will look very ugly and be distracting injuries, but they're rarely life-threatening. Any questions? Cover both eyes. Yep. Stop the bleeding. Cover both eyes. Ooh, did I get it back? Now this one's a knife injury. Stabbed in the eye. Yeah, how bad his wife must have been at him. Huh? Alright. You guys get the point. So blood trauma to the eye. So your eyes are held in by tendons, what's called the orbit. So there's an orbit of your skull. The eye sets at the center of the orbit. There's tendons attached to the orbit that allow your eyes to move back and forth, look across the room. If you fracture the orbit in multiple places, then the eyes can't move, or one eye will wander. They call that a blowout fracture. It'll be on the test. I suggest you know what it is. Now, in high-speed deceleration injuries, you can also get retinal detachment, which is when the retina gets detached from the eye. And one of the signs and symptoms of that is they'll see floaters without their eyes closed. Like when you close your eyes really tight, you'll see floaters. You'll see that without your eyes closed. It's a sign of a retinal detachment.
The retina is the thing in the back of the eye.
What's that?
The retina is a plane back of the eye that's connected to the optic nerve.
The retina is, why would you ask me a question like that? I thought the retina was in the front. There it is, yes, the back.
It's the actual.
Yeah. Yeah, retinal detachment. It's very serious.
So you know you have it by the floaters?
Floaters, yeah, with your eyes open, you see floaters.
Eyes open.
Is it gonna be a lot or something?
Just depends. And also, if you have a severe splitting headache without a deceleration injury in floaters, that's a sign of an arterial vascular malformation, which is a type of stroke, which is an even worse medical emergency.
Can you repeat that?
Hey, if you guys be quiet, you can learn something. It's called, if you get floaters with a severe sudden headache that is not from a deceleration injury, it's what's called an arterial vascular malformation, which is a type of stroke that is even more serious than retinal detachment. It can happen in young and old people. I've seen it in as young as 16 years old. But it can happen at any age. It's when an artery and a vessel grow together in your brain and then rupture. They're not supposed to grow together. No, you're splitting a hemorrhagic stroke, which we'll go over later. But it's a type of hemorrhagic stroke. But before that happens, you'll get the splitting headache and the floaters. But if it's a rapid deceleration injury and you see floaters, it's probably going to be retinal detachment. That's a very fake picture, but it tries to look at a blowout fracture. I think that's photoshopped. This blowout fracture, you're going to have swelling and bruising around the orbit. I've never seen a blowout fracture where all the skin's perfect around it. No, a fracture of the bones, the tendons are hooked up to go around the eye. Any questions? Yeah, you will not get a blowout fracture that looks like that. That's not real.
Like raccoon eyes or something.
Yeah, it'll be black and swollen and ugly and puffy. And any questions on retinal detachment? So, if you have a blown pupil, it's probably going to be intracranial pressure. It's not actually an injury to the eye. You can also get bleeding under the conjunctiva, which is called hematipsis is when you're coughing up blood. There'll be test questions on it. Make sure you know it. I can't remember it. Blood in the eye is, I can see the pictures. I can only think of hematipsis, which is when you're coughing up blood. It's not blood inside the eye.
Hemoptysis?
No, oh, there it is, right there. Hyphema. Hyphema. But how you say after you have a disaster, the people that show up to not help you at all, you say hyphema.
This isn't what bleeding under the conjunctive tissue, isn't just the.
It's filling up the front of the chamber there. That's what I was thinking of. Artificial eyes. Just because an eye doesn't react doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. It could be a fake eye. They do. It's pretty impressive.
There's like flour and glitter too.
Wow.
That's like sunhaver eyes too.
What are Terminator eyes?
You know, with the little light in it. and
Oh.
it's kind of- it's really cool.
That is cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of cool. They had like a laser. You could make the cat jump wherever you look, you know? Like a laser pointer. Any questions? Always ask. If the pupil's not reactive, ask if they have an artificial eye. So the biggest problem with face cylinders is potential airway obstruction. Any questions? Secure the airway. Ooh, it's almost break time. Soft tissue injuries to the face. I have a feeling this is gonna be really bad. It is.
Oh no, I knew we were gonna see this video. I knew we were gonna see this video. Yeah, but it's
Not a safe area to be diving. See the metal there for the concrete erosion? When you hear a scream like that, you know something's very wrong.
They showed him in the hospital after that.
Look how clean that water is, too. Yeah, there's his face again.
يعني هو الموضوع إن حطينا التيوب حافظنا على حركة باقي الشغلات الثانية
All right, go to break. Be back at 8 o'clock, ready to go into teams.
I'll be back again.
Just split his face right in half. Get the perfect
I've never seen it.
I've seen the one where I'm kind of glad that I hadn't seen it.
I've seen that one before, and I saw one where it looks like a grandpa or something. Where this person was, there's a dog up here and another dog down here. And they didn't know that that was his face down there. And they killed off the dog and landed face first on the dog.
I watched probably people die within a matter of 10 videos. My Instagram's like that too, dude.
Instagram.
I saw one.
Yep, sign it and photograph. Oh, I saw, oh, the new one? Yep. I saw that one. Yeah. That was worse than that.
Why would you change that?
That old white.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We faded it down. That doesn't look right, but it's like.
Look out was not on my vocabulary, that particular.